President Obama's speech? Great. Well, that was, of course, an extremely important occasion, and hopefully you interpret that in part as a validation of the importance of this institution and of your importance because he made the choice to come and speak to you. Now, I am a great admirer of President Obama's speech giving. He's a man who has an extraordinary sense of pacing. But I have one issue from last night's speech that I need to share with you. There was one moment, which I'm sure will be familiar to you, where the president started calling out some of the disciplines in the university. Now, as I recall, at one point he said, "How many of you studied nursing?" And there was this, and then at another point he said, "How many of you studied business?" So of course, he's going through a list, which is a famous rhetorical device, and I was getting excited. And I was starting to sit on the edge of my seat because I was starting to wait. And I was thinking, okay, he got through nursing, he got through business, he got through education, he got through engineering, and then he started talking about something else. So, I think we have to remedy together the situation from last night. So let me ask you, how many of you study design? Then let me tell you what I think we need from you. We need you to transform our world by designing new systems and products and policies which are based in human experience, sustainable practice, and a commitment to the common good. We need you to reimagine the built environment so that in the future we are all living in greater harmony with our local reality, and so that every citizen can experience the affirmation which good design produces. Without your creative understanding and leadership, we cannot get to a better future. So there's my charge to you. Now, it strikes me, having been at and having spoken at many commencement ceremonies in many different places, you're being bombarded with a lot of very, very heavy rhetoric. You know, you're being told to change the world, to transform the universe, lots of big ideas, by the way, with which I agree, but, you know, that probably feels like a lot of pressure. The other thing I notice is we have a tendency at these ceremonies to use very violent, war-like metaphors. You know, we talk about the battle, we talk about winning the fight, we talk about the struggle. So what I want to do now is take a different approach to my observations. I want to go to sort of quieter side of things a little bit, because actually, in order for us to get to those big goals, we have to get through each day. So what I'd like to do is offer you 5 simple rules that might be helpful as you're thinking about where you're going, that I would like to ask you to consider practicing on a daily basis. So here's the first one. Be on time. Now, as young professionals and pre-professionals, I'm serious about that, because if you walk into an interview late, you might as well just stay home. But that's not really what I'm talking about. It occurs to me that the issue of being on time is an issue of respect. Your willingness to be on time is your understanding that your time and the other person's time are equally valuable. And I happen to believe that when we live with an attitude of respect, we in fact are respected. So that's my personal rule for you. The second one is try every day to talk to someone that you don't know. A couple of reasons. I think you're going to find over time that increasingly your successes, although they're predicated on your knowledge and your expertise, will actually come to you from other people. In other words, you don't really make your own success by yourself. There's always somebody out there who appreciates you, who values you, and who's willing to give you an opportunity. So you got to meet that person. If you talk to a new person every day, over time you will be building this huge network, and also you're placing yourself out in the world in a different way. So I urge you, for those of you who are shy, there's a great rule that you can use. Always get to the third question. So think about it. You meet someone that you don't know and you make small talk with 2 questions. How's it going? What are you doing? There's something about asking that third question that commits you to the conversation. And you'd be surprised. It tends to trigger a conversation, so I just offer that to you as an idea. The third thing is I would urge you on a daily basis to practice your listening skills. You know, there's a lot of wisdom in the world, and there's a lot of wisdom in you. But very often the only way to get to it is to listen for it. We all could be better listeners. It's a very important skill. And that brings me to my fourth, which is to try every day to make some time to be still. We live in a culture and a society which values being busy. Americans are the busiest people on the face of the earth. Interestingly, we are not the most productive people on the face of the earth for all of our busyness. There was a recent interesting study about per capita productivity comparing Americans and the French. And among other statistics, we Americans on average spend 80 minutes per day eating, and the average French citizen spends on average 2.5 hours per day eating. The French take a lot more vacation time than we do, and yet per capita productivity is higher. That should tell us something. It's not about being busy, it's about being effective. And then the last one I have for you, which again could be daily practice, is every day, do something for yourself and do something for someone else. You know, you're hearing a lot about the importance of service, something which I deeply, deeply believe in. The problem with the word service, if you're not careful, it can become very exhausting because the implication is you're constantly having to do for others. You know what you have to do for yourself also? You have to nourish yourself, you have to nourish your mind, you have to nourish your spirit before you really have something to give anyone else. And as an example, I point you to what you are told, what we are all told when we get on an airplane. We go through the drill, and at some point, someone is going to say something like, in the event of loss of cabin pressure, oxygen masks will descend from cabins above your head. If you are traveling with a young child or someone who may need your assistance, please put on your mask before you assist. You know, it goes on and on. Well, the point there is, if you don't put that mask on first and get some oxygen in your system, you're going to pass out. And if you pass out, you don't have a chance in you-know-what of helping the person next to you. So it's a very important idea. Take care of yourselves and take care of others as well. The last thing I want to say to you is a request. Take responsibility for yourselves, for your thoughts, for your actions, and for their consequences. I will tell you two things that I believe. People who make excuses are lame, and people who blame others are losers. And I cannot imagine that any of you fall into that category. Either of those categories, I should say. So really, the main point is, I offer you my congratulations. I predict your success as long as you have the courage to determine what that success is. And I know that all of us are looking forward to following the many stories that you are going to be creating and the many paths that you will be following. Now it is my great pleasure to bring to the podium Michael Krollinger, who is both